Good evening, sweetheart. It's Maggie. Come sit with me. Let's make this night a gentler one. Tonight didn't arrive with any urgency. It slipped in the way evenings sometimes do, quietly, almost apologetically, as if it didn't want to startle the day before it was finished leaving. The sky outside has been clear all afternoon, not bright, just steady. That pale winter stillness that feels like the world holding its breath without realizing it. Seattle does that sometimes in January. Gives you a night that doesn't ask for rain or drama or explanation. I settled into my chair a moment ago, the familiar sound greeting me before I even finished sitting down. This chair knows me well. It knows when I've had a long day and when I simply need to sit without being asked anything in return. I placed my mug on the table beside me, chamomile again, and wrapped my hands around it the way I always do. Not for the warmth exactly, but for the ritual of it. There's something grounding about holding the same cup at the same table under the same light. It tells the body, you're safe enough to rest now. Lily is already at my feet, her small body curved into that shape dogs seem to reserve for evenings they trust. She let out a quiet breath earlier, the kind that sounds like agreement. The lamp beside me glows its usual amber, not bright, not dim, just present. I've had this lamp for years, and somehow it still knows when to soften the room before I think to ask it to. I didn't come here tonight expecting anything. No thoughts I needed to sort through. No memories I intended to visit. Some evenings are like that. Simple, contained, complete in their own quiet way. At my age, those nights feel like small mercies. The sound surprised me a little. Just a light tap, careless, accidental, but it lingered. Isn't it strange how the smallest sounds sometimes open the oldest doors? I didn't recognize it right away. There was no image, no name attached to it, just a pause inside me, a hesitation that made my breath slow down without asking permission. I stayed where I was. I didn't move the chair, didn't lift the mug. Whatever it was, it didn't feel like something I needed to chase. I've learned, mostly the hard way, that memories don't respond well to being summoned. They come when they're ready, and when they do, they prefer kindness over attention. For a moment, The room felt slightly fuller, not crowded, just accompanied, as if something familiar had taken a seat nearby and decided to wait until I noticed. I didn't feel sad, and I didn't feel startled. What I felt was recognition, the kind that doesn't tighten the chest, the kind that simply says, "Oh, it's you." So I stayed still, let the tea stay warm in my hands, let the lamp hold its circle of light. Some nights don't ask us to remember. They just ask us to listen gently to what has found its way back. And tonight, I didn't reach for the door, not because I was afraid, but because something in me understood that this wasn't the kind of door meant for standing up. Some doors at this age open best when you stay exactly where you are. The sound was familiar, the chair settling under my weight, reminding me that I've been sitting in this same spot for years now, long enough for the room to know the shape of me, long enough for silence to feel earned. I lifted the mug again, not out of thirst, but habit, and took a careful sip. Chamomile doesn't rush. It doesn't bloom suddenly or surprise you with anything sharp. It just arrives quietly, patiently, like an old acquaintance who doesn't mind sitting beside you without filling the space with conversation. The warmth spread through my hands first, then a little higher, and somewhere between that warmth and the steady hum of the lamp, I noticed it again. That feeling, not a thought, not an image, just a gentle pressure behind the ribs, as if something had leaned closer to listen. I stayed with it. There was a time when I would have distracted myself, stood up, adjusted the lamp, reached for the blanket, anything to keep the moment from settling too deeply. But tonight, I let it stay. The house made a small sound then, not a knock, not even a proper opening, just that soft click old doors make when the wood shifts and remembers a different season. I didn't turn my head, didn't need to. The sound landed somewhere familiar, the way certain noises do when they belong to a memory you've already carried longer than you realize. Years ago, I used to recognize him that way. not by footsteps. He walked too lightly for that, but by the way the house changed when he arrived, as if the air learned a different weight. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. Lily stirred near my feet, adjusting herself closer. Her movement was unremarkable, almost lazy, which told me everything I needed to know. If there was danger here, she would have lifted her head. If there was sorrow sharp enough to cut, she would have sensed it. Instead, she settled. Animals don't brace for memories. They simply make room. The lamp beside me held steady, its glow unchanging. It has always been good at that, staying exactly the same while everything else moves. I traced my thumb along the rim of the mug again, that small groove where the glaze thins just slightly. I've done that for decades, whenever something needs time before it can be understood. The feeling didn't grow stronger. It didn't ask to be named. It just stayed. I realized then that whatever had arrived tonight wasn't here to take anything from me. It wasn't asking for grief or explanation or even acknowledgement. It only wanted permission to sit. So I gave it that. I stayed in my chair, let the tea cool slowly, let the lamp do its quiet work. Some memories don't knock because they need to come in. They knock because they want to know if you're still listening. And tonight, I was. It wasn't a face that came to me, not a voice either. It was something smaller, the way a presence can exist without introducing itself. I noticed it when I reached for the blanket and stopped halfway through the motion. Not because I forgot what I was doing, but because my hands already felt warm enough, as if the room had quietly adjusted itself before I could ask. The blanket slid back into place, untouched. I smiled, not outwardly, not enough for anyone else to see, but inside, where small recognitions live. There used to be evenings like this, when I'd feel someone notice that same thing before I did. The temperature, the quiet, the exact moment the room stopped asking for more. He never said anything about it. He would just sit. That was one of his habits. the stillness, not the kind that withdraws, but the kind that arrives fully and then stays put. I used to think stillness was something you reached after a long day, something earned only when everything else was finished. But sitting here now, I understand it differently. Stillness is something you allow. The lamp's light reached the edge of the coffee table and stopped there, as if respecting a boundary. I've always liked that about this lamp. It never insists, it offers. A small sound came from the kitchen, the faint click of cooling metal, the afterthought noise appliances make when they've done all they can. The house has its own way of letting go. I watch the shadow of the lampshade shift slightly against the wall, not because anything moved, but because time did. The shadows here settle. They don't rush. They drift. That's when I remembered the way he used to lean in doorways, not blocking the space, not filling it, just resting there, shoulder against the frame, arms loose at his sides, like he was listening to the room more than to me. It took me years to realize that was his listening. Lily's breathing changed, a deeper rhythm now, slower. Her trust is a kind of permission. If she can let the night carry her weight, then I can too. I let my shoulders drop another inch. Didn't tell them to. They followed the quiet. What stayed tonight wasn't longing. It wasn't grief. It was familiarity, the gentlest kind. The kind that doesn't reach forward or backward. The kind that simply recognizes the shape of you and settles beside it. I've learned something about memory in these later years. It doesn't always want to be understood. Sometimes it only wants to be acknowledged, like an old neighbor you no longer see, but still nod to when their name passes your thoughts. I didn't speak aloud, didn't need to. The room already knew. And as the hour deepened, nothing more arrived. Nothing else asked to enter, which told me everything I needed to know. Some nights open doors. Others simply remind you that you're already inside. The memory didn't arrive all at once. It didn't knock. It didn't even clear its throat. It simply took a seat. I realized it when I shifted in my chair and felt that familiar balance return. The kind that settles not just the body, but the space around it, as if the room had remembered how it prefers to be held. There was a time when that sound would have pulled me out of the moment, made me self-conscious, made me apologize to the furniture in my head. But tonight, the chair's small complaint felt like agreement, like an old friend acknowledging the weight and saying, "Yes, this is where you belong." I lifted my cup again, not because I was thirsty, but because the warmth felt like punctuation. The tea had cooled slightly, just enough to remind me that time was moving, even if nothing else was asking to. The taste was softer now. Chamomile always knows when to step back. It never insists on being noticed. And then there it was, not an image, not a scene, but the shape of an evening that once looked like this one. He was sitting across the room, not close, not far, close enough to share the quiet without sharing the chair. A book open in his lap, forgotten more than read. The lamp between us, doing the same work it's doing now. I remember thinking, this is it. Not happiness, not joy, but enough. That word took me years to trust. Enough didn't mean the absence of want. It meant the presence of peace. Back then, I didn't know how rare those moments were. I thought they'd always come back on schedule, like seasons. But life isn't seasonal that way. It arrives when it wants. Still, tonight, the memory didn't sting. It didn't demand explanation. It just sat there, legs crossed at the ankle, hands folded loosely, waiting for nothing. Lily shifted at my feet, pressing closer. I rested my palm on her back, felt the slow confidence of her breathing. Animals don't measure time the way we do. They only measure safety. The rain had stopped earlier, but the window still held its echo. That faint, leftover dampness in the air that makes everything feel held. I noticed then how quiet the house had become. Not empty, complete. Some memories try to rewrite the present. This one didn't. It simply acknowledged the space we used to share and honored the way it learned to hold itself afterward. I leaned back slightly and let the chair support me fully. And for the first time tonight, I didn't feel like I was sitting with the memory. I felt like I was sitting after it, and that somehow felt like peace. The lamp continued its quiet vigil. The night didn't interrupt, and the memory, having found its place, stayed without asking anything more. There's a moment in some evenings when the quiet stops being something you sit inside and becomes something that gently asks to be answered. I didn't notice it right away tonight. It arrived the way truth often does at this age, not with urgency, not with drama, but with a softness that feels almost polite. I was holding my cup again, not lifting it, not setting it down, just holding it. The warmth had faded to that in-between temperature where you can no longer tell whether the heat is leaving the cup or entering your hands. That's when I realized this evening wasn't asking me to remember. It was asking me to admit something. I set the cup down carefully. The sound landed gently on the table, like a sentence ending without a period. And I said it, not out loud, just inside. Tonight, I don't want to be strong. It surprised me how easily the truth fit once I let it surface. Not wanting strength didn't mean wanting weakness. It meant wanting rest, the kind that doesn't have to justify itself. For so many years, I believed being okay meant being capable, being steady, being the one who knew what to do next. But tonight, I just wanted to sit. No fixing, no preparing, no narrating the future. Just sitting while the evening stayed close. Lily shifted again at my feet. Her head rested against my ankle. Not asking, not checking, just there. That's when I felt it clearly. I didn't need someone to listen to me tonight. I just needed someone or something to stay. The rain earlier had already done its part. The house had settled. The light knew where to land. And now it was my turn to stop performing the quiet and simply receive it. I lifted the cup again, this time for a sip. The tea tasted thinner now, but sweeter in its own way, like it was finishing its work. Some truths don't need warmth to survive. They just need space. I've spent a lifetime explaining myself to jobs, to calendars, to to expectations that arrived long before I was ready. But tonight, the truth didn't ask for explanation. It only asked for honesty. So I let myself admit it fully. I miss being sat beside, not entertained, not rescued, just accompanied. The chair answered with another small sound. The house responded with its steady stillness, and the night, kind, patient thing, stayed exactly where it was. That's when I knew this evening wasn't lonely. It was simply truthful. And truth, when spoken quietly, has a way of softening everything it touches. The night has a way of telling you when it's almost finished, not by growing darker, but by growing gentler. I can feel it now, that subtle loosening in the room, the kind that happens when nothing more is being asked of anyone. The lamp hum has softened again, not dimming, just settling, like a voice lowering itself once the important part has already been said. I haven't moved much since we last spoke, only enough to let my shoulders fall into a place they haven't rested in all day. That sound, it always reminds me I'm still here, still held. The rain has stopped completely now, not with an announcement, not with a final tap, just gone. Seattle does that sometimes, lets the rain leave quietly, as if it doesn't want to disturb what it helped create. I glance toward the window, and the glass looks darker without the moving drops. Not emptier, just calmer, like a thought that's finished passing through. Lily is fully asleep at my feet now. Her breathing has found that deep rhythm dogs only reach when they trust the night completely. I rest my foot just a little closer to her, not touching, but near enough to remind myself that closeness doesn't always need contact. There's something I've learned in these years that younger me would have rushed past. Evenings don't need to end with understanding. They only need to end with kindness. Tonight didn't bring answers. It didn't bring revelations. What it brought was simpler and far more rare. It brought permission. Permission to sit without proving, to rest without earning, to let memory arrive without opening every door it knocks on. I look down at my cup, empty now, and I don't feel the urge to refill it. That tells me everything I need to know. There was a time in my life when endings made me uneasy, when silence felt like something forgotten. But at 63, silence feels like something remembered. I think of all the nights this lamp has watched quietly, through decades, through versions of myself that thought rest was something you did after everything else was finished. Now I know better. Rest is what allows things to finish gently. The house makes one last sound, a small settling, like a deep breath, and I feel it in my chest too, that same easing. Sweetheart, if tonight brought anything with it, I hope it was the feeling of being sat beside, even if only for a little while, even if only in the quiet. Some nights don't want to be remembered. They want to be trusted. So let the night take what it needs from you now. The effort, the holding, the trying. You've done enough. I'm going to stay right here a few moments longer after my voice fades, letting the lamp finish its warmth, letting Lily dream, letting the room keep its promise of stillness. And when you're ready, let the night carry you the rest of the way. Rest well tonight, sweetheart. Good night. From me, Maggie.